Hey YouTube, this is our 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo. The last time you saw me with this Jeep, I believe I was replacing the radiator petcock. The O-ring around it had leaked, and a link to the video is up here. Today, I'm gonna attempt to replace the radiator. The petcock remained fine. It's just that one day on the way home, the radiator sprung another leak. And by the time I got home, it was very close to overheating and spewing coolant all over the place. So today I'm gonna back this thing into the garage. It's a little bit rainy, and I'm gonna attempt to remove the radiator and replace it. While I have the radiator out, I'm also gonna replace the serpentine belt, the drive belt on the engine. This thing has about 137,000 miles on it, and I've been driving it for about the last 20,000 miles, but I don't think it's ever been replaced in its life, so I'm going to replace that as well. So let's go ahead and follow the instructions in the instruction manual and the repair manual and try to remove the radiator out of this. The replacement hadn't come yet, but it's supposed to arrive later on today, so let's hope it arrives by the time I get done doing this and we can replace it. Let's get to it. To do this one, I'm going to disconnect the negative on the battery. I'm actually going to have to unplug. I don't know if you could see it all the way down there. There's the connector for the radiator fan. I'm gonna have to unplug that. So just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna disconnect the battery. I've seen on YouTube videos where guys actually take the whole front end apart to take the radiator out. The instruction manual doesn't say you need to do that. So first thing, I'm gonna disconnect the battery, drain the radiator, whatever fluids left in the radiator, and then follow the instructions on the instruction manual to get this thing out. Battery disconnected. I have a bucket under there with the coolant draining into it. Behind the grill there, I think that's 10 mils. There's two 10mm bolts that need to come out. This also holds the evaporator for the air conditioning unit, so you gotta be careful there. Then we have the lower radiator hose that's under the vehicle that we gotta unclip, as well as the upper. Both of them have these constant tension clips on it. And then this one here that goes to the overflow tank, I need to take out to get to, and I'll show you this later, but to get to the transmission coolant lines, you need to take this intake tubing that goes to the airbox. You need to take that out, so you could get a wrench in there to get the transmission coolant lines out. You just want to tuck this up out of the way so it doesn't leak. I'm going to use a vice grip to take this constant tension clip off. There's a tool that you could use. There's a special tool for this, but you don't really need it. You could use something like this. And this upper hose should just slide out. That's the clip for the radiator fan. That one needs to come out too. This here is the tube for the air intake. And this one here, you just gotta wiggle it out a little bit. You could take a screwdriver and just pry this here, push it down and out, and pull it out the way. Well, maybe to get that out, it's easier to take the entire airbox out. That might actually work a little bit better. With the airbox out of the way, there are just two 13mm bolts in here. With the airbox out of the way, I could easily get to that upper, right there. That's that upper transmission fluid cooler line. Everything else seems to be way down there at the bottom that I'll need to get from the underside of the vehicle. Alright, this is the biggest wrench I have. This is a 22mm. Let's see if this will work. I'm not sure. Oh, I'm in luck. 22mm, and comes off really easily. Time to work on the underside. I'm not sure if I could take the camera on the underside, but it's kind of the same thing. Taking the corresponding one of these off down below, and the lower radiator hose off from down below. There's this little plastic piece that's under the vehicle, and you can see where the leak was right there. and the lower hose is right above this tab here, so I had to take this off. I'm gonna try to get the camera up under there so that you could see how the lower hoses and the lower transmission coolant line. It might be best if I just disconnect the rubber hose from the aluminum transmission coolant line and take that off when I get the radiator off. But we'll see. Let's get up under there and take a look. Hopefully the camera could focus in on here. This here is the lower radiator hose, very similar clip to the one that's up top. This here is the upper transmission coolant line that goes into the top of the radiator, and this one here is the lower one. And you could see that even if I take this hose out, it'll probably be difficult to reconnect this one. So it might be best to just take this little clip off here. It's just a screw hose clamp. Just take that off there and lift it out entirely with the radiator. If you all believe in the Bible, that's when you do start saying, I could do all things through Christ who gives me the strength. Okay, here we come. Last thing left to do is to take these two bolts out. And according to the manual, the radiator should just lift right on out. Might have a little bit of wiggling to do down there, but for the most part, it should come right on out. These are not the bolts we need to take off. Those are the ones back there. So there's one there, and there's one back behind here somewhere too that I gotta pull this thing back to get to. Just in case you don't know, this here is the thermometer. I think this is the thermometer for the ambient air temperature, and I should be able to pull this thing back and get to the bolt right behind here, just like I'm on this side. Two longish 10mm bolts from either side. According to the owner's manual, the radiator should now just lift forward. The instruction manual didn't say it, but those two little 10mm bolts that were here, we need to take them out because that holds the evaporator onto the radiator. Now everything is loose. That radiator should just lift upwards. Let's go try it. So let's see. And here we go, it's coming out. Something else is binding. Key takeaway from this, never doubt the internet gurus. I did have to take the headlights off, undo this cowl a little bit, pull it forward, and that'll give me enough clearance to pull this radiator off. So I had to almost completely disassemble the front, take the hood latch off, so I could get some more room with this thing. Because here's something that the owner's manual doesn't tell you, right? This is the new radiator. And these down here, these little hooks down here, that is what the air condition condenser sits in. So you can't just lift the radiator out as the owner's manual says. You have to gently lift the air condition condenser up and out of the way before you could actually lift the radiator out. Again, the owner's manual, a little bit misleading, making it simpler than it seems than it really is. I had to take both the transmission coolant lines as well as the petcock out before I could lift this thing out. And again, you gotta be real careful with that air condition condenser because it's right in the way. Here we go. Here's a quick look at what the inside of this thing looks like without the radiator. Here's the air condition condenser, and here's the old radiator. This is the front passenger side, and it was spewing coolant out somewhere around here. I can't tell where it was leaking from, which one of these fins, or maybe it was where the plastic and the metal meat separated. I can't tell. Before I put the new radiator back in here, I'm just gonna wipe down there and clean it up a little bit and change this serpentine belt. This is probably the original one that's been on this vehicle, so I'm just gonna go ahead and change it up. To change this serpentine belt or drive belt, you just gotta release the tension off of this tensioner. I'm just gonna use a 1/2 inch ratchet. Press it down until it stops. And just make sure you understand how the belt goes, so that when I put it back on, it goes on the exact same way. There's also a drawing as to how this thing runs, but it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm using this mileage maker. I think this is a Continental product. And the installation of this is pretty simple. It's just the opposite of the removal. Just make sure that we run it the right way. Can't do anything. We gotta do now is move this thing back this way and put it on the idler, and that's it. Old one removed, new one installed. Remember to replace the speed nuts from the old radiator, because you got to reuse these. All right, installation being the opposite of removal, the radiator is in. I got to go below and connect those lines and tighten up the shroud bolts. Time to put this upper hose back in place. Okay, upper hose in place. Put the air box back now. Air box in. Let's put the filter on the top back on. All right, I gotta go on the underside one more time. Fit the underside radiator hose. After I fit the underside radiator hose, just double check everything. Everything looks like is okay. Other than that, fill it up with coolant and redo the cosmetics up front, and then give it a try. Make sure nothing's coming out down below. So far, everything looks okay. No drips. Just spilled a little bit, so that might be a drop. I got 2 drops or something on the ground, and I think that is from what I spilled when I was filling it up. So far, no leaks, nothing just running out like it was before. Let's get this thing up to operating temperature and then see where we go from there. Okay, so it's pretty close to operating temperature now. I just wanted to run for a little bit more. I want to hear the fan come on, make sure that's running right, and then I could give it a road test. Alright, this thing is up to operating temperature. Still no leaks, just those 2 things from where I spilled some. The fan is running. I could hear the fan going. From the front you could hear the fan going. So it seems that all is okay. Now the next thing I need to do is take it for a road test. This was one of the hardest jobs I've ever done on this Jeep, other than the suspension lift. And from start to finish it took me about 5 hours with about, I don't know, an hour's worth of breaks in between. So this is pretty up there in terms of skill level and intensity. But I hope this helps somebody. If it did, give a thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.